You can't prove anything. He's just a friend, she said, with that tilted head smirk she always used when she thought she was the smartest person in the room. She didn't blink when she said it, which almost made me question myself. Almost. She was standing by the hallway mirror, adjusting her hoodie like she hadn't just spent the last 3 weeks disappearing into her phone every chance she got. Dinner, Netflix, brushing her teeth, every moment a buzz, and every buzz another message that made her smile to herself. But she'd locked the screen when I walked in, like clockwork. And when I'd ask, just memes? God, relax. Except I don't laugh at memes that make you giggle while adjusting your bra strap in the kitchen at 10 p.m. It wasn't even the text that finally did it. It was the way she looked at me when I asked, "Are you sleeping with him?" There was no pause, no gasp, just that same rehearsed little shrug. He's just a friend. You're being paranoid again. That word, again, like this was all recycled nonsense I kept inventing in my boring little head. The same head, by the way, that bought her car, paid for her grad school, covered for her when she forgot her mom's birthday. But sure, let's call me paranoid. So I went upstairs, locked the bathroom door, sat on the closed toilet lid, lights off, phone in hand, and waited. I wasn't sure for what, just something. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I needed sleep. Maybe she was right. Then it buzzed. An unknown number, a message with no words, just an image. Her, naked, curled up under a white comforter I didn't recognize. And beside her, him, shirtless, laughing, hair wet like they'd just showered, her hand on his chest like it belonged there. And the caption, sent by whoever took the photo, "Friendship goals." That was the first time my stomach turned cold. Not hot, not rage, cold, like something important had just switched off and wasn't coming back. I didn't cry, I didn't throw anything. I just stared at the photo, then back at the door where she was probably still texting him from our couch. Now, I know some of you have heard stories like this before, and I know 90% of you are just lurking without subscribing. But I'm telling you right now, if you want to hear how this ends, if you want to see how a man can take a photo like that and not explode, but orchestrate, hit that follow. Because this wasn't just infidelity, this was a chess game. And she played checkers. I sat in the dark for 15 more minutes, saved the photo, looked at the metadata. It was taken that afternoon, not during her meeting, not after her gym class, right between the power nap and the dinner she forgot to make. I walked downstairs and asked her one more time just to be sure. "You sure there's nothing you want to tell me?" She didn't even look up from her phone. "God, can we not do this tonight? I'm tired." I nodded. "Yeah, me too." Then I walked into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and made a decision. The next move wasn't going to be yelling. It wasn't going to be tears. It was going to be slow, quiet, surgical, and it was going to start with a name I hadn't expected, his wife. Because she didn't just send the photo to me out of nowhere. She'd been watching too, planning, and apparently she had more. The bottle of Blanton's stared back at me from the center of the table like it knew I didn't belong in this scene. I hadn't even unwrapped it. My wife said it was a gesture of goodwill, said it was the least I could do after accusing her friend of something gross and making him uncomfortable. Apparently, my reaction to watching him touch the small of her back at brunch had been toxic and embarrassing. Her exact words, "You humiliated him, Mark." She said it as if I'd walked in and flipped the table. What I'd actually done was excuse myself, paid the check, sat in the car, silent, waiting, like a dog left in the rain. Now, I was expected to knock on the guy's door like a repentant schoolboy, hand him a bottle of bourbon and a handwritten apology card that she dictated while filing her nails, saying, "Just say something like, 'Sorry if I misread the vibe, wishing you peace and happiness.'" It's not hard, but it was hard. It was damn near impossible. Every time I tried to write, my hand would freeze, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew too well. I wanted to say, "Sorry you couldn't keep it in your pants," or maybe, "Sorry my wife lied to me and said you were just helping her with form while she straddled your lap during a stretch." But I wrote what she asked, folded it neatly, taped the envelope shut, stared at it. The words inside felt like a death certificate signed in my own blood. And that's when the photo came back to my mind. her lips on his neck, her body half covered by sheets, her eyes closed, not with guilt, but ease, like she belonged there, like she'd been there a while. I stood, walked to the sink, turned on the faucet, watched the bourbon pour out slow, amber and expensive and symbolic as hell. She'd spent $60 of my money to gift the man she was screwing. The least I could do was give it a proper funeral. Then came the card. I lit the edge with the stove lighter, held it as long as I could before dropping it into the sink and letting the water finish the rest. Ash and char spiraled into the drain like a closing portal. And just like that, I felt clear, the cold clarity of a man who's done being reasonable. I picked up my phone and opened the thread, the same number that had sent the photo. I typed just 2 words. Can we meet? A moment passed. Then the reply. Absolutely. No questions, no hesitation, just calm surgical intent, like she'd been waiting. I didn't tell my wife. Didn't even glance her way as I walked past her reading some bland wellness blog on her tablet, sipping herbal tea like she hadn't just detonated the foundation of our marriage. Going out? She asked without looking up. Yeah, I said, grabbing my coat. Quick errand. You gonna drop off the bottle? I paused at the door. Not anymore. She didn't even notice the shift in tone. Or maybe she did. Maybe she thought she'd already broken me so thoroughly that tone didn't matter. She was wrong. I met her, his wife, at a small place tucked behind an alley downtown. Neutral, quiet. She was already seated, black coat folded beside her, a folder on the table. You're late, she said. Not unkindly, just accurate. I nodded, sat, didn't speak. She pushed the folder toward me. There's more. And there was. Screenshots, voice notes, a selfie he'd sent from their shower, time-stamped to a night my wife said she was journaling. There was even a dry cleaning receipt. Her dress, his blazer, same-day pickup, same damn boutique cleaner across town. I didn't flinch, didn't snarl, just absorbed. Why'd you send me the first one, Lee? She tilted her head. Because I needed to know what kind of man you were. And I think you're the kind who doesn't go nuclear. I let that sit, then said, I'm also the kind who doesn't forgive. She smiled, thin and without joy. Good. We weren't allies. We weren't friends. But we had one thing in common. We both knew exactly what we were going to do next. Not scream, not beg, build, and then dismantle. Piece by piece. The next time we met, it was at a different cafe, this one quieter, tucked into a corner of an old converted post office, where the barista didn't know your name and nobody cared if you sat for 3 hours with an untouched espresso. She was already there when I arrived. Same coat, different folder, hair tied back, no makeup, no pretense, the kind of woman who looked like she'd been through hell and decided to stay a while. She didn't bother with greetings, just slid the folder across the table like we were at some unspoken business negotiation, which I suppose we were. There's a hotel off 43rd, she said. Not a chain, boutique. Classy enough to feel upscale, but cheap enough to not trigger anyone's credit card flags. Room 207. Saturdays mostly. Sometimes Tuesdays. I opened the folder. First page, a reservation confirmation, his name, his card, the room. Second page, a photo of them checking in, blurred but obvious, her red coat, his hand at the small of her back, smiling like they'd earned it. Third page, a screenshot of a voice note. I didn't play it, not yet. She leaned in slightly, her voice just above a whisper. That one's her, by the way. Your wife. She's laughing. Tells him she can't believe how easy it is to get away with it. Then something about how you still think she's stressed from work. I didn't say anything. What, nothing? She asked. Most men at least throw the folder. I'm not most men, I replied. She smiled, not in a flirtatious way, more like she'd found a puzzle piece she wasn't sure still existed. Do you want more? She asked. I looked up. Is there more? She nodded. Of course there's more. There always is. I just didn't send it all at once. I wanted to see if you were going to play the martyr, or if you were the type who understood what this actually is. And what is it? A war, she said, and they've been winning for months. There was something in her tone, flat, not angry, like someone describing a house fire that was still burning but no longer surprising. I took a breath, let the air settle in my chest. Bitterness tried to rise up like it always did, tight in the throat, acidic, but I swallowed it back down. Because bitterness makes people sloppy, and sloppy loses wars. What's your end game? I asked. Her eyes flicked up to meet mine. Truth? Public? Undeniable. Why? Because he works with kids, coaches middle school, and she walks around pretending she's this empowered feminist icon while she sleeps with her married gym partner and tells her friends you're too vanilla to notice. I flinched at that one. That line had teeth, and clearly she'd been talking. She said that. She said worse. A silence stretched between us, heavy but not awkward. It was the silence of two people who had both reached the same edge and realized there was no going back. I don't want a screaming match, she and I said. No scenes, no viral videos of me flipping a table at brunch. Good, she said, because neither do I. I want them undone, I added, not just embarrassed, not just caught. I want them unspooled so slowly they don't even realize it until it's done. That's when her eyes lit up, not with joy, but with recognition, like I'd spoken a language she didn't know anyone else could speak. That's why I didn't send everything, she said. I was looking for someone who understood tempo. She took out a small notepad, flipped to a torn page. Here, she said, his schedule, gym times, when he picks up their kid from violin, what cafe he prefers when he wants to work on his laptop alone. I took the paper. Stalker much? She smirked. Married to him for 8 years. Trust me, I don't need to stalk. I folded the paper, put it in my coat pocket. Didn't ask for proof, I didn't need it anymore. We were past that. I stood up to leave, but paused. Why now? She blinked. Because I found out about you. What about me? That you're the kind of man who lights bourbon on fire and smiles about it. I let that sink in, then nodded once. Keep your phone on. She already was. She thought I was in Phoenix, some fictional conference for regional managers, complete with a fake itinerary I printed out and pinned to the fridge like a dutiful husband. Networking week, I'd said, kissing her forehead. Late nights, early mornings. She nodded, barely listening, already mentally planning the night she could finally sleep like a teenager again, arms tangled in someone else's sheets. Instead of Phoenix, I was 5 blocks away, a third-floor walk-up with peeling paint and a clear line of sight to the back entrance of their gym. Not the front entrance, no, that was for couples, strollers, and normal people. They used the alley door, the one marked staff only, which required a key code I'd memorized just from watching. For 112, her birthday, because of course it was. They had a pattern, those two. The kind of routine you don't realize is a routine until someone outside of it starts watching. Same cafe after workouts, always the corner booth, 2 lattes, 1 blueberry muffin, split down the middle like some inside joke. She wore her hair in a bun on those days, no earrings, lip gloss only, her low-maintenance look, which was really just code for don't look like you're trying. On Wednesdays, they skipped the gym altogether, met at a juice bar, left 15 minutes apart, then reappeared 20 minutes later near a quiet residential street. That one took longer to figure out. It wasn't until the 4th week that I followed them on foot, staying far enough behind to not be obvious, but close enough to see when they rang the bell of a beige craftsman home with a broken front gate. She kissed him before the door even opened. I waited across the street behind the wheel of a borrowed landscaping van. The side read Green Line Turf Solutions. There was no green line, just a Craigslist ad, a $100 cash deposit, and the right paperwork. When you look like you belong, people don't ask questions. They stayed inside for 2 hours. I didn't film then. Not the house, not them. I waited, studied the pattern, how he checked his phone when he left, how she always touched the side of her neck when she smiled at him, how neither of them ever looked left or right before crossing the street. That level of comfort comes from being sure you're invisible. The next time I brought something new, a compact dash-mounted camera rigged with a cellular upload protocol, no Wi-Fi needed, no risk of memory cards getting swiped or footage erased. Every second it recorded streamed directly to a secure cloud drive, encrypted, remote, invisible. I parked across from the beige house at 1:17 p.m. They showed up at 1:38, kissed again, went inside. But the house had cameras too. Cheap outdoor home security, badly installed and motion triggered. I waited until 3:05 p.m. when they left. Her hair damp, his shirt wrinkled, both looking freshly destroyed. They didn't see me. But the house, it saw everything. The door opening, them entering, and that's all I needed. That night, I waited until she was asleep, passed out cold on our couch with a blanket she never used unless she was hiding something. I watched her from the hallway, saw the small twitch in her cheek as she dreamed whatever it is liars dream about, and then I logged in. The footage was already processed. 2 clips, entrance, exit, clean, time-stamped. I copied them to a hard drive, then 2 more, 3 backups, stored in different places. Obsession? Maybe. But if you're going to dismantle a life built on lies, you don't want your only copy sitting in a folder named proof. You want insurance. You want precision. You want silence so deep it echoes. The next morning she made pancakes, kissed me on the cheek, said she missed me, said it was weird sleeping alone. I asked if she'd done anything fun while I was away. She shrugged. Not really. Just work and workouts, you know. I nodded, sipped my coffee. You look good. Thanks, she said, flipping a pancake. I've been taking better care of myself. Oh, I said, I noticed. She smiled, and behind her the drive light on my encrypted server blinked, still uploading, still watching. Her mother greeted me with that same soft, powdered hug she'd always used, half affection, half performance. She wore pearls like it was 1963 and insisted I call her Donna, even though she reminded me at every family gathering that I was lucky her daughter saw something in me. Her father, Jim, gave me the same limp handshake he always did, followed by a pat on the back like we were brothers in arms. He still wore his old company watch even though he hadn't worked in a decade. The table was set for 4, with cloth napkins folded like swans. They always pulled out the stops when we came over. It made them feel relevant, like the marriage they silently disapproved of had at least produced photo ops and stories for church friends. My wife, Alexis, was radiant. That's the word she'd have used to describe herself. Hair curled, lipstick matte, perfume just strong enough to mark her territory. She kissed me twice before the appetizers, laughed at every bad joke her dad made, rubbed my shoulder like we were honeymooners, not quiet enemies sitting across from her oblivious parents. You seem lighter, Mark, Donna said while handing me a basket of dinner rolls. Alexis said you've been under a lot of pressure at work. I smiled. Yeah, finally getting into the groove of things. Streamlined some processes, took on a couple of personal projects. Alexis jumped in. He's being modest. He's been crushing it lately. I think he's finally relaxing. Her eyes found mine as she said it, a little too pointedly, like she was checking to see if I break character. I didn't. I buttered my roll. Well, Jim said, if anyone deserves a break, it's you. I told Alexis last week, you're the kind of guy people can count on. Steady. I sipped my wine and nodded. That's what I try to be. What I didn't say was that the personal project I mentioned had begun 6 months ago. Jim, bless his trusting soul, had opened up about their finances during one of our summer barbecues, worried about market fluctuations, wondering if there were better options than the firm he'd been with for 30 years. I'd offered to look into it casually, just to help. It took 2 months, a few forged emails, and one conveniently timed phishing site to reroute their login credentials into a dashboard I controlled. And Donna, well, Donna once had Alexis sign a blanket power of attorney form during a minor surgery, said it was just in case. Alexis, being the ever-grateful daughter, signed without reading. Donna forgot about it. I didn't. So when it came time to update the trust documents, I merely refreshed the terms, rewrote the beneficiaries, shifted the control. It was like moving furniture in a house no one lived in anymore. By the time dinner was served that night, I legally owned the structure that held every liquid asset her father was counting on for the next 20 years. But I wasn't going to take the money. No, that would have been too simple, too loud. Instead, I placed it all into a locked fund with stipulations, one of which included a morality clause triggered by formal evidence of infidelity involving any immediate family member. It wouldn't erase their retirement, just delay it, and force conversations they didn't want to have. Alexis thought she was holding all the cards, thought her fake giggles and thigh touches under the table were puppeteering a man desperate to win back her approval. She didn't see the quiet destruction already unfolding around her, how every smile I gave her parents was another brick laid, how every thank you for dinner was me planting deeper into her family tree, roots twisting. After dessert, as her mother cleared the plates and her father cracked open a second bottle of wine, Alexis leaned into me and whispered, "See, we're good again. They can feel it. I looked at her, this woman who once cried over me burning toast, who now used her mouth for secrets and her eyes for lies, and I said, "Yeah, it's nice." That night back at home, she tried to initiate something, nothing dramatic, just a touch, a lean, a breath near my neck. I turned away gently. Long day. She didn't argue, just rolled over and checked her phone. I walked into my office, sat down, and opened the trust account interface, watched the numbers shift ever so slightly as market values updated, saw Donna's signature at the bottom of the documents, shaky, scanned, but undeniably hers. I clicked on a folder labeled Assets Redline and uploaded the footage from House 207. Then I made tea. It was late, and some storms are better brewed in silence. Monday mornings in our kitchen always had a lazy rhythm. She made toast she never finished. I brewed coffee she always said was too strong. NPR murmured in the background, anchoring the illusion of a normal domestic scene while my wife sat scrolling through her phone like a teenager trying to manifest validation through Wi-Fi. She was barefoot, wearing my old college sweatshirt, probably to drive home the fantasy of us being closer lately. I watched her over the rim of my mug. She hadn't looked me in the eye all morning. Not unusual. Not anymore. Then her phone buzzed. A soft ding. Her hand froze mid-toast. She tapped the screen, and I saw it then. The flicker. Barely there, but real. The moment her world cracked an inch down the middle. She held the phone too long. Eyes too still. "Everything okay?" I asked, already knowing. She swallowed. "Yeah, just weird spam." I tilted my head slightly. "Spam?" She turned the screen away like a magician palming a card. "Yeah, something about a hotel confirmation, but I didn't book anything." I leaned back, calm as ever. "Huh, must be a glitch." She smiled, but her hands betrayed her. She locked the phone too quickly, then wiped her palms on a napkin like she'd touched something filthy. She spent the rest of breakfast overcompensating, asked about my week, made a joke about getting a dog, called me babe 3 times, which she hadn't done since Valentine's Day, when I forgot the reservation, and she spent the evening pouting into a $32 martini, but her brain never came back to the room. I could see it, spinning behind her eyes like a silent panic carousel. By the time she got up to jump on a call in the bedroom, I already had the email open. Subject: confirming your extended stay. Reservation number 293847. Body: hi Alexis, we're confirming your upcoming extended stay at hotel. Thank you for choosing us again. We've reserved room 207 per your preferences. As always, the entrance code and privacy settings have been applied. Let us know if we can offer anything to enhance your stay. Check-in Saturday 4:00 p.m. Checkout Tuesday 11 a.m. See you soon. Hotel concierge team. The timing was surgical. It had taken me 2 weeks to socially engineer that auto-send trigger, complete with her full name, familiar language, and that room number she stupidly thought no one had noticed. The rest of the day, she was a ghost in our house. She'd start to say something, stop, check her phone again. Rinse, repeat. She never asked if I saw the email again. That would have meant opening a door she knew she couldn't control. By evening, she was folding laundry while humming off key, pretending not to glance at me every 10 seconds. I waited until she went to the store, claimed we were out of oat milk, left her phone behind in a rush, which was interesting, maybe a sign she thought it was already compromised, or maybe her hands were just shaking too much to remember it. I opened my laptop, drafted the email to her HR. Subject: for review. Potential breach of conduct attached. Screenshot of hotel confirmation email. GPS logs showing her phone at the hotel address during company work hours. One 22-second clip. Security footage of her entering the hotel alone at 4:12 p.m. A second clip, 45 seconds later, showing her gym buddy entering the same room. Body: hi, redacted. Please find attached materials relevant to ongoing concerns regarding employee conduct. Per the organization's ethics policy, section 4.1, I believe this warranted your review. I have not contacted legal at this stage. Thought you should be the first to see it. Regards, M. No threats, no accusations, just a slow drop of poison into the right inbox. I hit send, then I cleaned the kitchen, took out the trash, opened a bottle of wine, and set 2 glasses on the counter like nothing had changed. She came home 20 minutes later with oat milk she forgot to buy, said she'd gotten distracted, said she was just tired. I handed her a glass. Long day? She nodded. So weird. I kept feeling like something was off. I smiled. Probably just spam. She nodded, eyes flicking toward her phone. And I watched her sip her wine, wondering just how long it would take for her to realize the ground under her wasn't shaking. It was vanishing. It was a Thursday when she called, calm, precise, like always. No pleasantries, just, it's time. I didn't ask what she meant. I knew. The timing was right. The noose had been quietly tightening for weeks, every thread another lie caught, every breath they took steeped in the illusion that no one noticed. "We're doing dinner," she continued. "Just a few mutual friends. Nothing big. It'll be casual." Casual. Right, I agreed. Picked a jacket that didn't scream revenge, but didn't suggest forgiveness either. Neutral colors. No tie, the kind of outfit worn by a man who'd already buried the version of himself who cared what people thought. It was at a small restaurant tucked off a quiet street downtown. Upscale but modest. Linen napkins, dim lighting, a little jazz humming overhead like it was trying not to be overheard. There were 6 of us at the table, including the host and her wife, 2 people who had once vacationed with us in Colorado, back when we were all still pretending this was a circle of healthy couples. He arrived first, alone. That told me everything. His wife hadn't told him what this really was. Smart. Let the coward walk in thinking it was just a friendly meal, a catch-up with other couples who never asked too many questions. He smiled when he saw me, nodded, played the neutral ground angle. "Hey man, good to see you." I offered a handshake that was just firm enough. Then came my wife. Late. Intentional. She walked in like it was a stage, laughing too loudly at something she'd read on her phone, sliding into the chair next to me with a kiss to my cheek that didn't land so much as hover. That's when I saw it, the necklace. Thin silver with a small onyx stone. I'd given it to her on our 5th anniversary after she described a dream she'd had about being chased through a forest, looking for light. She said it was her favorite thing I'd ever given her. And then one morning she claimed she lost it at the gym. I believed her. Of course I did. But there it was, resting just below her collarbone like a confession. And across the table, him, wearing a leather bracelet, simple, unbranded, but the same onyx charm, identical, different form, same deceit. My stomach didn't flip, my jaw didn't tighten, I just sipped my wine. The meal started normal, too normal. Everyone talked about traffic, Netflix, some political scandal none of them really cared about. My wife squeezed my thigh under the table once, I let her. They ordered appetizers. He mentioned a gym promotion. She complimented his drive. I laughed inside. By the time entrees were served, the silence between my wife and his had become the loudest thing at the table. I waited until the second glass of wine. That's the moment when attention starts to blur, when everyone thinks the evening is settled into comfort. That's when I pulled out my phone, placed it carefully on the table, tapped the screen, and said, "Want to see how I spent last weekend?" The video began to play. No sound, just motion. My wife. Room 207, entering the hotel room, alone. Then him, 24 seconds later, letting himself in with a swipe card. The camera angle was discreet but damning. Their faces, their body language, his hand on her hip before the door even closed. The table went still. No one spoke. No one moved. She dropped her fork. It clanged against the plate, sharp and final. She started, but nothing came next. His eyes went wide, not shame, not guilt. Panic. I picked up my phone, stopped the video, and put it back in my jacket. Just figured it was worth sharing, since we're all such good friends. I stood up, folded my napkin, set it on my plate like I'd just finished the roast duck. "Thanks for dinner," I said to the host, nodding with real gratitude. It was lovely. And I walked out, no yelling, no accusations, just silence. The kind that follows a gunshot in a canyon, still echoing long after the smoke clears. She caught up with me in the parking lot, heels clicking faster than her breath. I could hear it behind me, panic dressed up as concern, the sound of someone who still thinks there's a version of the night where she doesn't lose everything. "Mark, wait," she said, grabbing my arm. "Please, just can we talk?" I kept walking. She stepped in front of the car door as I unlocked it, her body a blockade made of desperation and half-truths. "It wasn't serious," she blurted out. I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the necklace, the bracelet, or the hotel keycard?" She swallowed, hard. He was going through things. I was helping him. Emotionally, it got blurry. I laughed once, not bitter, not angry. Just a soft sound of something finally snapping clean. "Blurry?" She nodded like a child caught with a broken lamp. Yes, like, I didn't plan it. It wasn't love. We were just confused. Right, I said, reaching into my coat pocket. You confused him into matching jewelry and a shared reservation under a fake last name? Her mouth opened, but I didn't wait for the next lie. I handed her the envelope. She hesitated before taking it. The weight of it hit her immediately. It wasn't just paper, it was finality. Typed, formatted, notarized, the death certificate of whatever illusion she thought she could keep. What's this? Transfer forms, I said calmly. Bank accounts. Car title. Removal from the house deed. You keep your name, your car, and the things you came with. She blinked at me like I'd just spoken in a language she'd never learned. That's more than fair, I added. Her hands trembled around the envelope. You're divorcing me? I tilted my head, almost amused. No, you are divorcing the man you thought wouldn't find out. And there it was, the crack. Her face split between indignation and dread. She wanted to fight it, to scream, to call me heartless or controlling or cold, but none of those weapons work when your enemy doesn't flinch. Mark, please, she said, voice wobbling now. Can't we talk about this in private? You don't have to make this ugly. Ugly? I echoed. Ugly would have been me playing that video at your office, or texting it to your mother. She winced. You wouldn't. Don't test that theory, I said, unlocking the car again. She stepped back this time. I opened the door, but paused one last time. Looked at her, really looked. She was still beautiful, still wore the same scent I used to love on her collar, but it all looked hollow now, like a well-lit stage after the curtains dropped and the actors have gone home. You thought I was boring, I said. Predictable. Harmless. She didn't respond. I got in the car, closed the door. She stood there, clutching that envelope like it had sucked the air out of her lungs. I pulled away without looking back. No honking, no shouting, just the quiet hum of an engine and the knowledge that, finally, this wasn't a game of guessing anymore. It was the last chapter, and she didn't get to write the ending. It started as a joke post, one of those caught in 4K moments someone with too much time and too little tact thought would make for a funny story on a local gossip group. A screenshot from the dinner, no context, no names, but the internet is a bloodhound, and context, like rot, always rises to the surface. There we were, 3 people in a frozen tableau of implosion. My wife mid-recoil, her mouth just starting to fall open. Her gym buddy caught mid-sip, wide-eyed, like someone just whispered fire in a theater. And me, perfectly still, perfectly composed, staring straight into the lens, not shocked, not angry, just ready, like I'd known the camera was there, like I'd planned it, because I had. The caption read, "When the husband knew everything and waited." It was posted to some anonymous relationship thread. Within an hour, it hit Twitter. Reddit picked it up next. Then the college forums where her friend coached JV athletics. Then the meme pages, then the text chains. By lunchtime, my phone was buzzing with notifications. Not from people asking what happened, but from people who already knew. His wife filed the divorce papers the same day. She didn't call me, didn't have to. That bond had already served its purpose, clean, surgical, no unnecessary contact. She played her role in the exposure and exited the stage with elegance. His coaching contract, suspended pending a morality review by the school board. Apparently, sleeping with a married woman while mentoring 13-year-olds doesn't fit their PR image. Go figure. My wife, Alexis, went quiet. Not publicly, not online. Socially, she stopped texting, stopped updating her Instagram story. No wine glass selfies, no grind never stops gym videos. The digital presence she curated like a shrine to herself went suddenly still, but not before her best friend messaged me. It was short, simple. You really didn't think he'd outplay you, did you? I stared at the message for a full minute, wondered if it was meant to hurt. It didn't. I replied with a single emoji, the knight chess piece. She didn't text again. Over the next 48 hours, silence set in like fog. Not the awkward kind, the strategic kind, the kind people use when they realize they're standing too close to a blast radius. Friends didn't pick sides, they picked distance. Her coworker who used to comment fire emojis on all her vacation pics, unfollowed. Her cousin, the one who bragged at Thanksgiving about how Open communication was the key to Alexis's happy marriage. Went private and archived every post that tagged her. Even her yoga instructor ghosted her. And me? I went to work like normal, ate lunch alone, watched the clip from the dinner go viral in 3 different languages. Someone slowed it down and dubbed dramatic violin over it. Another added subtitles and Comic Sans, calling it The Art of Patience. But my favorite was the black and white freeze frame with the caption, "He was never the fool, he was the fuse." I didn't post anything, didn't comment, didn't leak more. I didn't have to. The story had already left the confines of my personal life. It belonged to the audience now. And they were ruthless. When Alexis finally did reach out 4 days later, it wasn't with an apology. Not at first. It was with confusion, denial. Who would post that? Why are people acting like they know us? This is all blown out of proportion. She didn't understand. Not yet. This wasn't about the affair. It wasn't about humiliation. It was about control, reclaiming it. In silence, in strategy, in full view of everyone who ever looked at me like I was disposable. And now they were looking at her. And she didn't like what they saw. She picked a cafe we used to go to during the good years, back when a shared latte and a stolen hour between errands felt like intimacy. It had been a month since the dinner. 28 days, if we're counting the exact time it took for her world to fracture into unrecognizable pieces. Her gym closed its member spotlight program for restructuring. Her job posted her position with no public explanation. Her phone went silent. The likes stopped coming. I arrived 10 minutes early and waited outside. Watched through the glass as she arrived right on time. No makeup. Hair tied back in that loose, fraying knot she only wore when things weren't going her way. Her jeans were the wrong brand. She'd sold the designer ones, or returned them, or maybe she just stopped caring. She didn't see me at first, just stood at the counter with her card already out, as if pretending this was just another Thursday and not a requiem. When she turned, our eyes met. No dramatic pause, no rush of emotion, just 2 people meeting in the wreckage of something they built and then set fire to, her with a match, me with a map. I sat across from her. She gave me a smile that used to work. This time it just looked like her face forgot how to wear it. "You look good," she said, sipping whatever overpriced herbal disaster she used to swear by. "Really? Better, actually." "Thank you," I said. No compliment returned, just stillness. She started, then sighed. "I needed to see you, without the noise." I waited. "I know I messed up," she said, like she was talking about a missed appointment, not a detonated marriage. "I know," I replied. "I never thought it would get this far. I thought maybe we could reset, talk, I don't know. Not fix everything, but understand." I nodded slowly. "Closure." She hesitated, then nodded back. "Yeah, closure." She wasn't wearing the necklace, or the ring. Her nails were bare, chipped. There was a small red patch on her cheek, like she'd started crying in the car, then wiped it too hard before coming in. Her voice cracked. "You were supposed to be boring." I tilted my head. "Predictable," she continued. "Safe. You were the guy who never raised his voice, who paid bills on time, who remembered birthdays." I stood up, adjusted my coat. "And you were supposed to be honest." She flinched like I'd slapped her. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a manila folder, placed it on the table gently, the way you'd place flowers on a grave. "What's this?" "Everything," I said. "Every message, every photo, every recorded call, all forwarded to your father, your pastor, and your employer, as of this morning." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "There's also one last file," I added, "a scan of that quote you gave me years ago, the one you framed and hung above your desk." I met her eyes one final time. "Cheating only matters if they find out." I leaned in just slightly. "They did." I walked out. Didn't wait for a reaction, didn't look back, just stepped into the cool air and let the door swing shut behind me. No screaming, no tears, no apologies, just silence. The kind that doesn't ask for forgiveness. The kind that means it's over.